Hi, Carmen. How you doing? Good. How are you?
Okay, it's rolling.
Would you say this?
What? No.
I'd like to call the meeting to order for the town of Daniel, Monday, November 4th, 2019. Excuse Shelley Bunker, she had a prior engagement earlier that she cannot be here tonight. Harris is running the video.
Oh, boy.
And get up here.
Are you getting to run that?
Yes. Quickly expanded my horizon.
I believe we have Daniel Irrigation that would, we want to bring in here during the public comment section since they're not on the agenda. Is there anybody from Daniel Irrigation that is going to talk a little bit this evening?
I'm kind of there with them. I'm an engineer, we're gonna be doing some work, some projects.
That's probably what I was called about, and if you want to come up and state your name and just kind of state what the purpose is, and
Sure.
just kind of comment here, so there'll be no decision from the council or anything, but just to kind of, I guess, give us heads up.
At the podium?
Please.
Okay.
Your name
So
for,
Ryan, he was gonna be here eventually.
Yeah.
he usually is here, but,
Yeah, he called me, he said he's running a little bit late, so.
oh, okay.
I'll talk. So basically,
Your name.
Oh, yeah. My name's Cameron Jenkins. I'm with Bowen Collins and Associates Engineering. And we're kind of doing a study for Wasatch County, Simpson, Central Utah Water, and the irrigation company to come up with some new alignments for their pipelines, some projects that they'd like to complete. They got some funding from the National Resources Conservation to pay for most of the engineering and most of the actual construction as well. So there's multiple projects that are going on in Heber, and one of them is in Daniel, where they want to adjust and realign some of the pipes. I have some maps. I don't know if it's useful for you guys to look at the maps or not, kind of see what we're kind of looking at doing. You want to see that?
That's okay. I can show you.
All right, so Daniel Irrigation have 3 different ponds kind of that we're looking at. The main area we're looking at is on the far right, the middle pond, where they want to take that and they want to kind of make some improvements and take the water. So it kind of goes down the highway here and then cuts across. There's a black dotted line. It kind of comes across and then all the way down to the end where it says end of the middle pond on the far left side. You guys can see that. So currently, the pipeline system goes through people's fields and not in an easy way to access them. And so they'd like to move their pipeline into the right of way into the road. So that way they could access them and replace things in the future if they need to. And so some of it, and they also want to abandon some of the lines. So just to the north of the black line, there's like an orange line here and a red line. They want to kind of abandon those because that's where it currently goes. And they want to move it south down here. So I don't know if that makes sense. You guys can see it very well or not. But.
So, and your purpose tonight would just be to introduce this to us as far as
Yeah.
kind of an alignment that whether we like or don't like or what will work for us. Or,
That's right. If you guys have any concerns or anything like that. So, you know, part of it would be they'd have to move it to the road, so they have to open up the road or nearby and put the pipeline there.
which is one of the options.
Yeah, it's one of the options, and then they'd fix the road, so, you know, brand new pretty much. That's kind of the main thing that they're looking at doing, just so it's easier to get to. Because if you have to get onto people's property, it gets kind of tough to do.
It's still connected all together.
Yeah, it's all connected, so it's all still going to be connected. They want to increase capacity, so some of the pipes are going to be bigger. They're going to align, some of there's a lower and a middle pipeline that they want to run parallel. And
So
then,
this 16-inch line here
yeah,
would be abandoned.
that's right. And then they just move it down to where the black line is, where there's currently a 6-inch, I think, water line.
Where would the option be drawn on this map other than the road?
Where would they do it, other than the road?
Yeah.
We'd have to work with them to figure that out, because that's, and they own the pipe along the road, I know that, the 6-inch pipe. But
Right, but wouldn't they be working with the town for the easement to put it in the road? Okay.
So yeah, so basically we're coming in and talking to you guys, if you guys have any concerns with that. And then, just to show you that it's coming up, most of it will be funded.
I would think we would certainly want to have a discussion much more than a comment period today.
Yeah, definitely.
Discussion
Yeah.
about
So this is to bring it up so you guys know, and we can work through it more if needed.
So what stage are you in right now, just engineering?
Yeah, so right now, we're just in discussion, what they told us, the irrigation company told us what they would like to do.
Okay.
And so we're looking kind of like at feasibility to see if it makes sense, cost, and then see what options are available.
I'd like to see options as well on this map. So, I mean, whether it's 2 or 3, whatever
Yeah.
option that they are considering.
So the idea is we're gonna have a scoping meeting, and all the stakeholders will be able to come, and we'll be able to share with them the alternatives that kind of we came up with. We'll be able to provide more comment. But for now, I wanted to get you guys' feedback on your thoughts on if you have any issues with it going down the road or not, or anything else.
I think it's a great project to upgrade any water system, for sure.
Yeah.
Down the road, I have serious concerns, certainly. So that would be done in a meeting that would be outside this.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we got culinary lines running in that same road.
And you said 2 lines, correct?
Yeah, so they'd be moving the lower and middle irrigation lines down there, so there'd be 2 pipes, a new 18 and a new 16-inch pipe through there.
And if there was an issue in the road that the town didn't want to necessarily deal with for their reasons, and then the water department had issues that they needed to get in and tear up something for their reasons, how does that work?
So, say that again, so if there's something, issues with their pipeline that they need to fix?
In the road, and maybe we didn't, at that time, or for whatever reason, didn't want that fixed in the road, how would you remedy, or what would be the remedy of that if they?
Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah. So, yeah, so,
Answer my question.
I don't know, if you wanted to say anything?
Yeah. Is there anything else that
You guys have anything for me? So, I think they're just in the initial scoping phases. One of the discussions was, do they replace the line through the backfields where it was originally located back in the 90s? Or do they move the lines out to the right of way? And in that road, you're right, there's a lot of utilities. We've got a gas line, telecommunication, an existing irrigation line, the old culinary line, and our culinary line. And then we've got the irrigation ditch on the south side.
There's a lot going on there, yes.
So there's a lot going on, like any right away, and they're not far enough along to tell us how that would all work together.
We're just coming up with alternatives, and this is probably the best alternative that they like, right? This is what they want. So if it's not gonna work, we have to come up with something else. But it's kind of a plan for now, and we'll have more information, in a couple months or so.
So one of the advantages to the town we talked about is by the time you put in 2 more water lines in addition to all the stuff that's there, at a minimum, I think we're resurfacing the whole road, which is on the list of one of the things that has problems. So I think I can say without adding to their project, I mean, I think that the damage that would be caused by it would justify potentially a new asphalt surface for us would be, you could argue short-term or long-term, but a potential partnership.
So why 2 lines? Why do we need a 16 and an 18?
So there's 2 different irrigation pipelines. There's one that feeds the lower system, and there's one that feeds the middle system, and there's also an upper system that's up to the east a little bit and to the west. So they gotta keep them separate.
So I guess they're proposing a 16-inch line to replace the 6-inch old culinary line that's in there, which we knew was undersized when we did it, but the price was right.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy, $10 for the entire water, 1,000 feet was just a deal they could mess up. So I think the idea is to replace that line with a properly sized line that would improve the pressure through the whole middle system. And then the 18-inch apparently, or 20?
18.
Okay, 18
That's what this is.
today.
Yeah. It could be different, but that's just
Subject to future revisions, I thought we were bigger than that, but anyway, goes from the lower pond to service the lower pressure zone, so below 3,000 south. So they're a difference of about 80 PSI.
So is that gonna improve everything to, at least to today's standards, what they would like to see?
That's the engineer.
Yeah. That's the idea, right? It helps out the whole system.
Low pressure for those people on the lower end.
Yeah. And the pipe sizes may change, we gotta do an analysis to come up with that, to make sense. Because I think the current system is a bunch of deficiencies, so,
What's the time frame between the actual application with the design set versus what you guys want before it's settled with where it's gonna go?
At least what they're thinking.
So we're gonna be having some meetings in the next few months to finalize which alternative and stuff like that. so stakeholders will be invited to come and talk about it. And then once it's finalized, to actually do it, it'll be, a little ways out.
Well, but between now and finalization is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
Keep
we-
getting stakeholders.
The next few months sometime.
And they'll reach out and talk to the council with
Yeah,
regards
so,
to the
yeah.
issue, not just the stakeholders general meeting. Okay.
Trying to get the questions answered, and so they get a go-ahead, so by springtime, they're ready to start doing something. Is that what they would like to see?
Well, yeah, well, depending on when they do it, so they want to do it when they don't have to irrigate, right? So it would be the off-season.
During the winter?
The construction of this is farther down the road than that by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the point of tonight was they were asking me if they could use the right of ways, and I said, well, that's a great question, but I don't make that decision. And so it was more introducing the project and understanding and getting a feel from you guys about the potential of adding additional water lines to the town's right of ways. So
Just so
that
you
I
know, cut off
wasn't
the
the
hour
only one
in a few
answering.
months when we send out, a meeting to you guys and come.
So realistically, it'd be next fall or next
Yeah.
spring or something. Okay. Just get an idea.
So the main concerns are just basically right-of-way utility issues and,
Yeah, we're both about that.
So we'll talk about that. Any questions from the council? We will stay at item number 1, any public comment concerning any issue that's not on the agenda. Okay, move on to item number 2, which would be... Oh,
I wasn't listening, I was off dreaming.
okay.
I hope it was good.
We're going to go back to item number 1, and that was still if there's any comment to be made about something that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, right now, there by me.
Okay? Sure.
We need something done about that.
Okay? Same thing that you came in earlier before.
Yeah, we're still getting the lovely dust. And they go in and out and in and out, and it's a mess.
Okay.
So we're
Plus-
talking about side walls now, right?
Yeah,
We're not talking about the other one that you got.
well, Coleman's still go in and out, and I'm really getting aggravated, because I hang my clothes all the time out.
Would council like to discuss this now, or put this in during the discussion of...
Well, you got the public.
I understand, that's why I asked.
We don't care about the public.
We'll continue on since we're talking about that then, because, so, I think that has been addressed since the first time you're in, and communication has gone back and forth multiple times. I don't know if Eric wants to share any more of that.
All summer long.
Yeah, so what we did is we notified our attorney, and he has drafted a letter, and we're putting together our evidence, and then the letter will be sent to one. I didn't know that we had another problem with another neighbor, so the wall one, it's when we drafted.
Well, I've got Coleman, I have to put up with him, he's right there next to the dog pen. I wish he could move his cockeyed fence, or his road up about half in the middle there, but he's a rotten neighbor.
You gotta have one, so you know what a good one looks like.
Well, I had a good one.
Okay.
The one I had before was wonderful, I loved her to pieces.
Okay, so on the other side, we are addressing it with the attorney. We have not addressed, I didn't know we had a problem back on that one. I thought that was remedied. So
Well,
Scott,
they just go in and out and as fast as they want, you know what I mean?
well, Scott had some, he had some tenants in there, and he asked them to leave.
Yeah, they left.
Yeah, so I thought that was remedied. I didn't know we still had a problem along that one.
Well, he never done anything about his road. It's rock and dirt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gravel.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought most of that dirt was coming off of the topsoil
Well-
business that was in there.
I don't know, but
Okay.
he is a wicked one to try to talk to. You've seen that when I told him on that night.
Yeah. Okay, so what we need you to do is when you see a truck go in that's creating dust, we need you to write down the time and when it happened. So we have incidents lined up. That's what our attorney wants to see.
Document.
On this day, this happened. On this day, this happened. On this day, this happened. Not for the last year, he's been a terrible neighbor. They won't go to court with that.
And if you can get
Okay.
a photo of the dust, I mean,
Photo.
a photo, if you can get a photo.
Take your phone and take a
I'm
picture
not
of it.
hanging usually close when they do that.
Yeah, so that's what our lawyer's looking for is the evidence. He can say, this day was an incident, this day was an incident. And that's how he wants to proceed with the court case on those.
All righty, I'll see what I can do.
The first thing we do is send a cease and desist letter, and then if that fixes it, we don't go to court. If it doesn't, then we've started the process.
You could always put up a game camera. This motion.
Oh, I never thought about that, huh?
I think you have sent a cease and desist.
No, we have not sent that to Todd.
Oh,
We
I
have not.
thought you
No, the attorney drafted one, we haven't sent it yet. So we're gathering the evidence, that's why I needed the logbook that shows, because his letter says on that this occurred, this occurred, and this occurred. And so we had to have something in writing to give to our attorney, so he has that.
Isn't that back lot zoned for that?
What's that?
Is the lot back there that he's doing zone for?
Zone 4,
it's a lot down behind, no, it isn't.
No, it's zoned for industrial in the back, but it's zoned residential in the front, and he already knew it. And he wanted to build an area like Coleman's, but Coleman's did that before Daniels became tenant. And Todd already knew that he didn't have a right of way to go back from the front to the back and to take all the diesels and put it onto the Daniels Road.
so basically what it comes down to is he's accessing industrial property through a residential zone, which is not allowed. So that's where the problem lies. Turns into a nuisance, and of course you can see the result.
Because there isn't a nice road back there, it's just dirt.
Yeah, I get that part. I guess if he found another access through the commercial side of things, then he could do it, you're still gonna have the same issue.
He wanted to go through, down through like he's doing, and then come around below my property and then up through Coleman's, but that was when the other deal was on, you know.
Would that be better?
I don't mind a little chit chat between you a little bit, but at the same time, we want to keep the focus to the issue, and I know we can get it fixed now, but Todd, did you get your question answered with regards to the access?
Hey, Chip, I'm excited to be here, my first meeting after
Been a while.
being in and out. It has been. So anyway, I just have a question and,
Can you name it for the record?
Oh.
Usually as much as
I'm
come out,
Ron
but
Rose.
I guess tonight we got just enough that
Yeah,
we can do
sorry.
it slow enough that we can get
okay,
started.
okay, so I'm Ron Rose. And I just have a question, because, you know, we want to understand our government here a little better. And I was wondering if there is any communication besides the website, like if there are changes, like when elections are, for, you know, the boards, and financial statements for the year, and all of those things. Is the only resource we have is to go to that website, or does the Daniel Township, do they publicize it in some other way?
So there's certainly the public records from the state level, whether it's from the state or a webpage, but that would be the main place that residents would get it for our town.
Okay, so there's no like handouts or like things that we're saying we're not having an election, or we were having an
We
election?
don't, we've gone through the years, handouts, you're gonna get on people's private property, a piece of tape ruins the door, if you put a piece of tape or rubber band stretched and stung some kid in the eye. We don't do hands out and go on people's properties. We do it all through the three postings that are legal postings, which would be the state and the two other postings that we have. We have had some issues the last few months with the state posting that have been realized that postings were made and they weren't on there. That's been mentioned in this council meeting before, and we believe that that's been solved. We're taking pictures of the posting when it gets posted to make sure that if it does come off, we show that it was posted. So those are some of the things that, as it comes to our attention, we deal with for sure.
Okay, but you can't send it out like in mailings that go to water bills or
I would think that if someone was interested enough to go through our budget, they'd either be at the council meetings when we go through all the public hearings and or we'll look it up. I mean, those are two certain ways to be involved.
Okay, thank you.
All the financial records are on Transparency Utah too. All the checks, all the.
Or on what? Can you say?
Transparency Utah, both have.
Thank you, Sharon.
Please share.
I was just, I guess I'm not very informed on, so I'm gonna come so I can learn. But I would,
And this is a comment period, so, you know, we're having a little discussion and we don't have agenda items to have big discussions about anything.
no, I was just gonna ask, I was wondering if I could get a job description of all of the town council jobs. Do you have like a job and a description of
We all
what you do?
We all have jobs and we all do lots of things. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's an official list, but that's probably a great idea that we put something
Yeah,
together like that.
and then also, I was curious if I could get documentation of like the times or the time cards. Do you do time cards or?
We don't.
So how do you like keep track of your hours and,
Like most small municipalities, I don't know of any that
you
do
don't
time card.
document, your hours?
No.
Okay, well, so do we just propose that we talk about it, or how do I do this?
If that's something that you feel important, we can have an agenda item and talk
Okay.
about keeping hours and why we
Yeah.
do and why we don't and why we
It's
couldn't.
just
and
like
the
when you were
cost of it.
talking about documentation, that really is important when it comes to money,
Yeah,
our money.
it is.
So I would love to talk about that.
Okay, so I'll take that as a comment and note it, and that will become an agenda item, not necessarily next month, but something soon, not long-term and put you off, but, well, you know, the end of the year has sometimes some pressing issues that may or may not be part of the discussion, but it'll be something soon. And just so you're aware of, from an audit standpoint for the town, we get audited every year on everything that we possibly do, from monies to positions to relationships. Have not had any negative in any type of form and don't expect to have any, but that audit will be coming when it's due here in the next few months.
Okay.
And who does the audit?
Ben
Ben Probst,
There's not,
so.
And then just
they don't have.
one more thing. So like, all of our taxes have like skyrocketed, and I know this isn't you guys,
Thank you.
but
We lowered them.
Yeah.
But I've talked it, but as everyone's worried about it, because there's lots of people that are on fixed incomes, and we're gonna get taxed right out of our homes. And so why don't, as a council in a town, we get together and go to the county and say, because I think they're misjudging us and against Heber, and that was what the issue is. Like our green belt, I think they're thinking it's like, like building lots.
I would agree with what you said. I think the communication needs to go to the
'Cause I
county
think
and
if-
the state with regards to the 5 acres, whether it's county or the town of Denver.
Because like, there's no way we can live here if it keeps,
This has been a brutal last few months when it comes to those types of issues for sure.
but where they targeted mostly on Daniel,
And Charleston and just a few others.
I think that it would be something to address right now as it is the hot issue.
Okay.
So do we put it on the agenda or what do we do?
We can take that advisement, we noted it on the record, and when that
Work.
becomes part of something that we need to talk about, that'll be the time when we deal with it.
Okay. I think that was all that I had.
So how do we know when it's the time to talk about it? Is that your judgment then?
Well, we've got a board of pretty competent folks here that have lots of issues come up, and then we have X amount of hours once a month to deal with it. I mean, and we find that some months we have to do things that we have to because they're timely. Other months are driven by these types of discussions.
So then,
Nick, I'm sorry.
just on the same subject, just to give everybody a little bit of information, you can appeal here's what happened, here's what's happening with the taxes. the state requires 1/3 of the county's property assessed every 3 years. So we happen to be in the assessment this year, and the property values went way up. You can appeal those, number one, and most appeals that I've heard about so far have been accepted in neighbors and so forth around where we live. And the second item is I went into the county, just so that everyone would know, to talk to the assessor, and they were very, very adamant about saying we didn't raise taxes, And I said, well, California did this. California in 2000, starting about 2001, raised property values, hardly ever raised taxes, raised property values on an increasing scale, and then they said, we're not raising taxes, it's still the same percent as it was last year, but they'd raised the property tax by 20%. And it was all property value, so it was always based upon property value, those taxes. And Proposition 13 was the kickback that the people got a referendum going, and it eventually got on the ballot, and they went back for 10 years and reduced all the property values back to the value it was 10 years ago, and made it the law in California that you could not raise the property values unless there was certain types of event, like a sale or there were a couple of different ways, a death in the family where you just transferred the property and so forth. So there were issues like that if we are clear in our efforts to get our property values evaluated and lowered back down a bit when we can, eventually the state's going to realize that they need to own the taxes, that they just can't raise property values and hide the taxes that they raise in the property value increase. And that's what's happened. You guys lowered taxes. Well, you still probably got a little bit of a raise because property values went up real high and the taxes based upon that. So when you consider that, my argument with the state and with the county is you don't own the tax. You are trying to put it off and say we don't own the tax increase that we just given because the state required us to raise the property values. And that's why our property tax now has gone up like the rock.
We lowered it before those taxes notices came out.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, but that's what's happening.
But yeah,
That's what's happening is the property values are going up.
Maybe put us on to something.
They are going crazy, but what happens in these economies is we need to fight to have our tax base change from our property value to something else, or keep the property values where they are and only limit when they can be raised, and that would be.
And I try to keep it a comment, but I have to address, the green belt issue is probably the issue that's probably the most workable right now, because I agree, our acreages are different than the other developable 1 acre acreages, and that's, so just so you're aware, we are, and there are discussions outside this council with folks that are in the community about, come on. So we're trying to find the avenues to pursue the best way of doing that, just.
So be
be
careful about that tax issue because particularly in Heber Valley and other places like this, in California there were people that over a 10-year period, they lived in their home for 60, 70 years, and over a 10-year period their property values went from $250,000 to $200,000 to $2 million in value, and they were taxed based upon that, and they were paying $100,000 as much as $100,000, and they were on Social Security.
Yeah.
And a year in taxes on their property, and the state turned around and was foreclosing on the homes because these people could not pay their taxes and kicking them out of their home. And you find that in a small community like that where we still have people who have been in their homes since they were born 70, 80 years ago, and the property values are high enough now that unless they have income that is sufficient, they're going to have trouble paying the property taxes, let alone all the other taxes that are associated with property values.
The other thing that's coming is all this resort stuff, and that's probably back in somebody's mind to raise this stuff up so we can afford to live here.
Yeah.
Those issues are certainly being addressed and magnified by what's gone on the last few months, for sure. I know you had a comment earlier that I postponed for God, sorry.
Yes. When you mentioned that it would come up in another meeting, that we could bring some of these things up, then do you notify us and tell us that we'll have time on the agenda, or because we don't know for sure what you're dealing with, you know, what you're gonna have.
Every month we have an issue, we have a meeting, and we have now the issues on that month's meeting that you're gonna be able to see before the meeting happens, that, you know, when people find out that's a subject that they wanna come to, they usually show up and whatnot, and so you would certainly be having 3 options to glean whatever we're gonna be discussing at either a planning meeting or a council meeting twice a month. And so to tell you what's going to be on the agenda now, next month and next month, sometimes there might be something that's very important, it's timely, that we know we need to put on. There's lots of things that we bubble to the top each at the end of the month that we need to discuss at the end of the month. So we don't know next month what the full agenda is going to be.
Okay, and so this meeting is held once a month, and then you have a planning meeting, and when's that held?
I believe the third Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Is the planning to deal with zoning and planning issues, and then the council meets the first Monday of every month, like this evening, the first Monday of every month, at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so, okay.
Could we ask you as a council, when somebody in the public comment section has an item that would like to have put on the agenda, that you contact that individual when it goes on the agenda so that they can make it known to the rest of us? We're not all watching the website every day to see what the
You know,
agendas are.
I've heard that before, and then pretty soon the clerk has a big list, and then we have our regular stuff, and then there's Johnny's list, and you put them in front of them and back of them, and
Well, you only have like 10 items on the, 11 items on the
we do
agenda.
here, but we have a lot of folks that like to talk about a lot of different things as far as agenda items, so there's only these that we have to have on there.
Uh-huh.
There's certainly other things that are on there that we don't have to have, and those are the things that I would be referring to. These are what we need to check off each month.
Okay.
So I would, more communication is better, and if there's an easier way than, okay, there's 5 people that want to know this subject, but we're going to contact those 5, I don't know. We're putting it out in three areas every month.
I just have an issue with that, because I've been in other communities where if you had a recommendation or a request for something to be talked about on an open agenda, when that was put on the agenda, they contacted the individual who made the proposal, and they had the responsibility either of contacting other people or putting it out. Otherwise, agenda items were put on the agenda and nobody was there to talk about them because they didn't know that it had been put there until it was too late to come to the
That's
meeting.
what my mom was trying to say
That's
too.
what I was
We kind of need to know a little more specific.
Well, so the agenda's not driven by the public per se because somebody wants to talk about this. Usually it's a community thing that we have X amount to talk about. If something needs to talk about, they can talk to one of the counselors. The way the agenda works is either myself or 2 council members usually get it on the agenda. That's kind of how council members work throughout municipalities. It's not just, hey, I want to be on the agenda, and come on. Maybe we've done that lots with folks, but sometimes there's issues that are more complex that need to be discussed or planned or not, and may or may not fit someone's timeline. But certainly we've tried to accommodate up to now and in the future people's needs that they want to talk about stuff. If we were mailed something or emailed, hey, there's some questions you'd like to discuss, we might be able to discuss them, we might not. There's things that are personnel or land acquisitions or legal things that we can't discuss, and we can't say why, what, where, and how about it. People might not want to know about it, but we can't discuss it. So to answer your question, if you have things that want to be agenda item, I would think we will and would like to talk about it. Certainly, the broader that issue may be, for sure. Cool.
But don't you already put it in the way? I mean, you put the planning dates and everything, couldn't you put it at the bottom, just talking about this or something?
We do the listings, and I'm not sure each week, but usually there's a basic listing of what the agenda is going to be, or at least the meeting hours and times.
You put that out.
Is that what you put in the wave?
That could be, I can't see it from here at all. Probably.
Okay.
And that's probably what been
Is
put
that
out.
what's in the wave? I don't know how to get
The
the wave.
agenda doesn't go to the web
No,
each
it's
month,
just
it
on the
only goes
website.
to the state website and to the town
That might
website.
be a good option.
Here's the issue that I'm seeing there,
Okay.
is I get told a lot of stuff about what's going on in the Daniel area.
Likewise.
the board.
And that's why we're all here tonight.
So,
'cause
so
we
if we're gonna have a
need to hear
discussion,
the
this is
board.
not the time to do it,
Well-
and we have an agenda, and we're gonna stick
But
to
we are
that.
discussing it. You've allowed this discussion.
I'm gonna end this discussion because now you're taking it farther than it should be taught, so we'll have an
Okay, then let's
agenda
put it
item
on
on
the
this,
agenda.
and we will talk about that. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask one question. Are you guys for the people in Daniels, or you're for yourselves, or what? Because one time, you give him
This is
something.
a comment.
You give a guy something here, but the next guy that asked you for the same thing, you don't give him. Now, what's the difference?
One example of that, please.
And how do we find out who's even on our board? I wouldn't know any of you, all the ones I know is you and him. And I lived in Daniel online.
I'd come to the meeting, get to know us, we'd love to have your
Well, I
input.
think
You're
you ought to at
very,
least tell us when you're gonna have elections and stuff. I don't think you can vote not to have elections.
we cannot, we have our elections, and if they're not
You know,
filled, we
So
don't have
if
the
I wanna
election.
run
Is
for
this a
something.
comment, or what are we doing?
If we wanna run for something, who do we get in touch with to run for it?
Yeah.
The clerk, like
I
every
have a
other
comment.
town.
You know?
I mean,
There's
every
just
town
been a
has
lot
a
of
process,
stuff
the
carrying on
same, you go to
since
the
you
clerk and
guys
get the
got in
application
that
there.
just doesn't jive.
What?
I've had to do my own damn roads because you wouldn't do them. You know? Now why should I have to pay my money when I'm paying you taxes? Me taxes,
Didn't know your road wasn't getting
you
done.
know?
The road
I mean,
by the
the mailman comes and says, well, we're not gonna deliver your mail no more till you fix your road. So I
Remember,
contact you guys and you say, oh, we don't do that. Well, what the hell do you do?
Okay, noted. Todd?
One comment that I have is you're telling people that they can't run for office until they've lived here for a year. Where does that come from?
I've never heard that ever in my entire lifetime.
Come from your board.
Didn't come from anybody in here that I've ever heard of it came out. That, and if that did, that could be a rule that was stated. I haven't said that because I don't know that that is or isn't even a rule.
Okay, the next
Hold on.
comment is,
So that may or may not, so if somebody said that, they may or may not be
they won't
accurate.
file because you guys have
I'm sure
said
one
it.
of your deputies said something somewhere along the line that might not have been there when it was clarified, then you understood it and it was not an issue.
That's not true. It wasn't one of my deputies.
No, I didn't say it
This was
was
about a
one
week ago.
I was not saying your deputy said that, I was saying a circumstance when a deputy might have said something that wasn't as proper as he could have said. End of story.
Here's the issue.
Okay?
You guys get defensive every time something gets brought up. And shut it down so nobody can have a discussion. That's the way it's been for a long time.
You should be for the people.
Is right. So open up a discussion, have a good public comment, instead of shutting it down. Because you're representing the people of Daniels.
Sheriff, let me ask you
I'm not
something.
sheriff.
Okay? Previous sheriff, Todd, I'll call you Todd.
Fair enough.
You've been to many meetings.
Yes,
I'm
I
going to
have.
end this comment period here real quick, but I'm going to make this comment. There's an agenda to follow. You know that you need to state an agenda to have a proper discussion. If
You
this
didn't
needs to be
follow the
discussion,
agenda tonight to begin with.
I would, you know what? You're right, because I was trying to let. a
So
few
then don't
people-
talk to me about it.
Okay, I won't. I'm going to follow the agenda now from this forward on, and that comment period is over. Thank you, public. Item number 2, which is business license, there are no new ones or renewals. Move on to item number 3. The Danieltown ordinance, which is a DO 2019-11-4, 2020 meeting schedule. Council get a chance to look at that and see if that can hurt you. What they need to do.
Yeah, there was a couple of meetings that we couldn't do because of this room was scheduled, so those have been noted on that schedule also. One of them being the planning commission meeting in April,
Okay?
so it's been pushed back a week, just because of scheduling this room.
And then July 6th, from a 4th of July standpoint, is that going to be effective, Mary?
No, I believe it's July 2nd. Monday, July 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
6th.
July 6th.
Yeah, so the 6th is the first Monday. Are you
So
thinking?
that doesn't interfere with the 4th.
Yeah,
So the only one that was affected was the one
Well,
day
that's something
other
long
than Labor
weekend, I'm
Day.
just asking. I mean, I will be here probably, and can't plan on it. So that's all, you know, if someone's gone on a long weekend, then maybe we'll do it. Not, sounds good to me.
okay.
Chair will entertain a motion to accept the schedule as submitted.
So moved.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the schedule? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, Town Ordinance DO 2019-11-4B, amended conditional uses. Number DO 2019-11-4B. Effective date 2019-11-4. Short title, ordinances approving certain amendments and changes to the Daniel Municipal Code, DMC Title 8. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend and add and clarify certain provisions in and to Title 8 of the DMC. Ordinance, whereas the Daniel Planning Commission recommended the following changes in the attached code. The Daniel Towncouncil does hereby ordain and adopt the attached amendments to the Daniel Town Code, Section 8, of the conditional use as is indicated. Council went over it last month. We've had a public hearing. We've gone through the steps to go through the ordinance, and this is the proper steps into the ordinance before us now. Any questions, or Jill, entertain a motion to accept?
So moved.
We have a first.
I second it.
And a second. Any discussion on this ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
The legislature at this point has, with the recent growing of hemp products, has issued a statement that says if you don't designate where the hemp can be grown, it can be grown in any zone.
Great.
So, I don't know if you guys want that on a conditional use and want to designate a zone for that to go to. Or it's like the sexual oriented business. If you don't have a spot for them to go to, they can go anywhere. So that's why we have the sexual oriented business zone down by the airport. You know, the county and everybody got together and built that one interlocally. Do we want to add that to the conditional uses and have that apply for in a zone? Or do you want all zones open for the growing of hemp?
Is that going to be something that we just wrapped up? That's something we're going to unwrap and redo again?
Yes.
Conditional use.
Yeah.
I would say let's tackle it the next go around myself, but I'd like to hear what the council says.
I agree. I think a lot of work was done on this last list, good list, and we reviewed it. And this is new, and then we look at it in the future time.
Okay, but you're aware, if we get an application tomorrow in any zone, that allows that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was discussion. We had a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Ordinance passes.
Is that something we should have planning look at then, Mayor?
If that's something that needs to be, then we certainly would want to look at it and see how that affects. Absolutely. So, I mean, from a state level, it's legal. It's just like hay for everything else. Other people may not look at it that way. It's certainly a discussion that town ought to have. So, let's start some planning and come to council, or we have it at council. I think planning first.
Yeah, well, it's another land use ordinance, so we go back through the public hearings, everything. Anytime you modify the code, you have the public hearings on both the council and the planning. So if that's something you want them to look at, I'm sure planning will look at that and send you a recommendation.
I'll just say if we put it in minutes to, when we go back to the changes, we look at it at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know how we can like that. Conditional uses of uses. Okay.
I don't know that Heber's a good place to grow that. Why not?
Any discussion, any other discussion, takes care of that, conditional use. 5, discuss acquisition of Daniel water shares. Was there anything that, needs to discuss with that, or any sort of come available that anyone is aware of?
I think we had the first ones we bought, and I don't think we've had any since then.
Okay.
So,
I've not heard of any per se.
So do we have one? How many water shares do we have?
I think 15
Oh,
total.
we have that, we bought that many?
We got between water shares in the beginning and got some commercial ground and different things that have been coming out in the last few years. It could be 12, I don't know, I think it's 15. Just things like that.
Okay.
Are you asking how many we purchased? That's what we're.
No, just total town.
Well, both.
I think total. Daniel Municipal Water. Gary's not here and Shelley is not here. Does the council or anyone have any thing they've been aware of that the council would be here with regards to storm haven water? No, excuse me, Daniel Municipal Water. Okay. And item number 7 would be storm haven water, the issues that have been around with that. Ryan, you might be able to speak to the latest of that.
So it's finally quieted down a little bit. We've got the final payments and paperwork for the CDBG grant that we're wrapping up and starting the next CDBG process. We had a temporary operating permit for the new well back in August, and we've got the final operating permit that was just issued last week. So with that, the tank's online. Eric and I helped put another little solenoid valve in, so both the tank and the new well are operating. We still need to go back at some point and try to modify the old well 1 to see if we can get that to be a permitted source as well.
And state is somewhat satisfied at this point with this transition finally?
At this point, they're satisfied that we made, we've got an approved well, water source for the first time ever up there, which was officially an approved water source. The storage is going to be our next issue. Is that there's, by any way we run the numbers, there's not enough storage there. There never has been, but they're calculating differently and they're assessing penalties differently, and so that's going to be the biggest issue up there. Is we're going to have a number of points assessed for our lack of storage.
And that is going to be a 500,000, or 3/4, 1 million. How big a tanker are you roughly estimating?
So when we sized it years ago in the master plan, we looked at the whole area and we had planned on a 300,000 gallon water tank. I think there's reasons with some of the folks that have asked about annexing that might be a little undersized, given new information. So either way, we're looking at a fairly substantial project there to build a water tank similar to the one Daniel Municipal has.
I'm sorry, can we have questions?
Yep.
So it may be a naive question, so do our taxes to Daniel go particularly for Storm Haven, or do they put the money in to build the tanks that will service them?
So there's 2 water systems. They both have different buildings and different systems. They've got grants that the town has used to support some comparing money, but when it comes to 300,000 and the town gives up 30,000 or something to make some matching grants, those monies have been exchanged. We're relying and working with both any type of grant and have looked at loans, but I don't believe have gone that direction yet. To try to get
Okay,
that
so
water.
they don't take money out of the Daniels, whatever.
They're both self-sufficient, there's time to make that grant work, but no, they're 2 separate systems,
Okay.
and bills and monies and people, and we're running them separately monetarily. Council, item number 8, council meeting approval of meeting minutes, October 7th, 2019. Council had a chance to read them, and or like to make any
So I'll make a motion to approve that review.
Can they be read out loud?
Once they're approved, they'll be online for everyone to be able to read it, and we don't normally read them out loud at any meeting. The public is going to be able to read every single word that we're approving tonight, and it will all be online on our webpage.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mary? So everyone will be able to get access to all
Okay.
these. And each and every meeting minutes that we have, they'll all be minutes that have been looked at, either scrutinized and changed, whether it's a comma or a the or whatever, that a person might have said something that wanted to change. Then we approve it, then we give it out to the public. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 7th, 2019.
Okay,
I'll second it.
the first and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. And Recorder's Office warrant approval announcements. Turn over to Mary.
Okay, Comcast office phone, 20219, DNA half dozen, office space 200, Wasatch Wave for the conditional use printing for meeting, $33, public hearing, $55.50, Fabian Bancroft for federal, $10,906.50, and Schultz State, $232. TO Engineering for planning, $2,118.65. Engineering, $410. Banger's, $220. Joe Witt, $106.50. Trinell's, $71.50. Raymond's, $198. Carolyn Clyde, $946.24. Dominion Energy for excavation, $79.40. And Neff's, $197.50 for a total of $15,976.98. Payroll hours for Public Works, and then payroll for council, $7,321.44. Commission, total $463.50 for a total of $24,943.17. Daniel Municipal Water, CenturyLink data charge $47.75. Heber Light and Power $315.21. Postmaster for stamps $220. Staples for printer ink $45.36. Chemtech Ford testing $20. TO Engineering for engineering $593.90. Sampling $433.16. Total $1,675.38. Payroll hours $735 for a total of $2,410.38. Storm Haven, Dominion Energy data charge $908. Heber Light and Power $530.16. Postmaster for stamps $110. Staples for printer ink $45.37. Chemtech Ford testing is $40. Laughlin Engineering for the well engineering $217.50. TO Engineering for engineering $436.25. Sampling $203.55 for a total of $1,591.91. And then payroll hours for a total of $475 and grand total $2,066.91.
So I entertain a motion to approve warrants as stated.
So moved.
A motion to approve the warrants.
I'll second it.
We have a second? Any discussion on the warrants? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Warrants approved. And Chair will entertain a motion to close the closed session. At this point, we'd ask the public and everyone to leave. Council will go into closed session to discuss either legal or personal property acquisitions.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So how do we go about having a discussion?
So if you wrote an email or sat and talked to one of us, and most of us would sit and talk to you and hear what your concerns are.
Okay.
And then they may bring them to myself, and then it's, yeah, we can talk about that, oh, no, we can't, that's legal, we can't. I mean, maybe you wanna know something that you can or can't. Other than that, that's how we'd get the process, and then it would come and say, okay, great, well, we'll have the right evening with the line item to discuss items that are appropriate.
So we come personally to you?
You can email, you don't need to drive to our homes. I mean, my office works kind of well, where people can come to my office, where we don't really have a town office, we're pretty small, and so I take time out of my day to meet with lots of folks that just walk in and share what they need to share with me. And you're welcome to do that. I look forward to it. That's what I've done for 6 years. If I'm not there, I might have to come back. If not, you can leave me a letter. I will call you, or I call anybody that might leave a letter for me. And we kind of work that way, instead of maybe there's questions that might have some good logical answers that you don't get told or whatnot. So we would probably talk, and then if it turned into an agenda item, maybe then we move it to an agenda item. But the agenda items are placed on either myself or 2 council members that put it on. And we have not yet, that I know, not put something on that was, there could have been something lined up. I'm not aware of anything that didn't get put on the line to get discussed.
They don't need to go to you, do they?
No.
It's a council member.
Any council member.
Yeah.
And then, one more question. So are we, like, did we adopt the Wasatch County codes, or do we have our own codes or rules?
When we first started 10 years ago, 11, 12, I forget now, I keep saying 10, it's probably 12.
No, it was longer than that. It was 15 years ago.
There we go.
It was the moment I moved in, so I know.
So I'm
But
behind the
like,
times
I don't want to
already.
be in a town.
So, ask your question directly again, sorry.
So,
Your ordinance,
did we adopt the Wasatch County rules, codes? Or do we just do our own?
Our own codes.
Well, I was gonna say we used it as a framework to help lay out what was specific to us and what wasn't specific, and so that was kind of the roadmap, but we kind of added the things that those people say, I was not one of those people that added that brought it in, and it's been tweaked ever since, trying to make it work, or it's worked pretty well for the town mostly. But yes, so we started with this, and we've molded it to the way the town has come, whether it's been through public hearing, whether it's been through different council members here, or the public's initiated.
So like if you tell me it's on the computer, is it
You
on
know what
the
page it is?
computer?
It's not completely all there. I've had to go back and re-enter a lot of it, so I'm still actually trying to work through getting everything in there.
Because there was just a lot of questions that way that we didn't, like some of them had addressed. That we kind of just need to know the rules, and maybe we need to talk about the rules.
Well, that's what we talked about, if that
Yeah.
was gonna be an agenda item. As far as finding information, it should all be on the webpage. If it's not, it kind of should be, and maybe it's a month behind or
So you don't have just like one hard copy of what we believe, or have rules?
No, there's a big book about this thick of all
I
the
know,
stuff that we
like
believe.
300 pages, but like things that you've added too, you really haven't, you
We
don't
have
have it all.
We have it all in books, and it may or may not all be online, but it should be and will be, but if it changes, then sometimes that takes a while to get it all on there.
Okay, I just didn't know where our rule, like where if you were the adopted Wasatch.
If you go online, you'll be able to see all the rules and the codes of what the town runs by and how we run it and what decisions we use to make what rules we use to make our decisions. You should find all that out. Maybe there is a line or a paragraph that didn't make it on, that was something changed recently, but most everything should be on.
And that can be discussed with one of you, like say we wanted to talk about that code or zone or, all this that you're talking about. Is that something that you can discuss and possibly with the people's majority change? Or is that possible?
So, I'm not quite sure yet. We talk about these things every single solitary month. So if you come to these meetings, every question you have that are maybe here, will be discussed throughout those months, and you'll be able to have your input as much as anybody else on it. So I would say we do discuss all of them all the time, depending on the month.
Because I didn't feel like we dared discuss anything tonight. That it was kind of like I don't know. I'm new to all this, so I just wondered that.
Well, as
the
your husband said,
procedure-
I did not follow the rules because I was trying to let people communicate.